Hey, good evening, everybody. What's up? My name's Corey. I'm the host of the Spotlight from the Black Podcasters Association. I'd like to thank all of you guys for checking in. Um, Tonight, we have a special guest, Gerald Davis, the host of the All Things Basketball with JD podcast. And we're just going to talk to him about his podcast, what his goals are, what he's trying to do. But first, before we get into that, I want to make sure that if you have any comments or questions, especially if you're on the Facebook platform, make sure you go to streamyard.com/Facebook and just give Facebook permission to basically put in your user name and stuff like that so that we know who's asking questions and stuff and give you proper credit for the questions or the comments you make. Um, so with that being said, we're gonna just jump right in with Gerald. Um, I guess the first question or series of questions I want you to answer is gonna be, who are you? What is your podcast about? How did you get started in podcasting?
Okay, my name is Gerald, and AKA, of course, GD, that sports dude, is the handle that I go by. And I actually have two podcasts. We'll talk about one tonight.
Uh,
All
we could talk
things
about
bas.
we could talk about both. So
Okay, all right,
I
cool.
only had space to talk about one in the
Oh,
artwork and
right,
stuff. But this is
right,
your
right.
show, and this is talking about you and your podcast
Okay,
journey. So
okay. Yeah, so I have two podcasts I have going. To start out, of course, I would have two. So everybody starts with one, not me. But uh, one is the one that's under the spotlight here. That's All Things Basketball with GD, which covers the general gamut of NBA. I even cover some WNBA. I did Olympic episode because they actually played this summer, and I might cover a little bit of college. It depends. But so that's the one podcast, and also I'll talk a little bit of fantasy basketball too. And my other podcast is Fantasy Football Hangout, which I do pretty much weekly. I give a recap of what went on in the NFL, the scores, and all the stats and whatnot. So, and give my opinion, of course. So, yeah, so those are my two podcasts there. I started, um, I started this year actually after I actually went to one of your live meetups. You guys encouraged me to just go ahead and do it. So I just went on and did it. I had actually bought all the equipment that I needed to podcast. And from there, I just sat on it and sat on it. And then you guys were like, you have the equipment? I said, yeah, I got everything I need. I just haven't launched yet. So back about mid August, I went and launched, um, I think both at the same time. So, yeah, and it's been going good. It's just that it's laborious if you're like doing everything, which I am doing. So, host, engineer, I piece it together, and then also I promote it. So it's a lot that I'm doing there, but it's so far so good though.
all right, cool. So what made you want to do the endeavor of taking on two podcasts, launching and starting with two podcasts at once?
Uh,
That's big ambition.
yeah, yeah, man, it's me, of course, putting more on my plate than I can handle, but no, it's been good though. The football one, I did want to do the fantasy football one because, I have this wealth of knowledge. I've been doing fantasy football since 2010.
Okay.
Actually, a good friend of mine, Adrian Grant, uh, he got me put on to that. So I've been doing that ever since, and I've had great success in it. So I said, you know what? Let me just share my knowledge with others, and also too, I see too many people who look like me in that space. There's a couple of guys there, like Marcus Grant, a few ex-players that does fantasy football as well. So that was kind of my inspiration behind that. And the basketball is just something I've been involved with since about 19, 1981. That's when I started following basketball. I'm a longtime Knick fan, so
Sorry to
I've
hear
been
that.
watching. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If I was born in another city, maybe,
Oh
but
man, I'm gonna get my butt whipped over that one, but
yeah, yeah. So I've had my share of ups and downs with that, and even this year. So that
yeah.
goes
I
without
mean,
saying.
they're off to a good start this year, so I guess you got your
Yeah,
hopes up on that one.
yeah. So and also too, I think a lot of the young cats out here really don't know about the players of yesteryear. I want to start doing like a spotlight of guys like that because I actually did my last podcast was the NBA put out a top 75 list. So, and then a friend and myself, we were going back and forth about who deserved to be on, who deserved to be off. So I said, you know what, let me do a podcast about that. And then I did follow that up like two podcasts later with guys that I think should get consideration to be on that list. So, and there's some guys from yesteryear that, a lot of young cats will be like, who is this? Who is this?
Right,
But these guys was nice in their day. So I think I want to incorporate like a spotlight on guys from yesteryear that people just forgot about. So
right.
I think I want to incorporate that into my podcast as well.
Okay. So you've been doing this, baby. You've been doing about what now? 2, 3 months now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So yeah,
around
right. About
September,
2 or 3 months.
right?
Yeah,
August, September.
yeah,
So how has that experience been for you? Especially since you're kind of running two podcasts. I won't say simultaneously because I'm assuming your basketball started a little bit later than the football one.
yeah. It started a little bit later, so I had some. Uh, the demand wasn't there, but the football, I've been on it every single week. Even I had took a vacation, I still was able to put out. I think did I put out content then? No, I think I missed that week.
You took a bye
So
week.
I took a week off. Yeah, yeah. So, but apart from that, I've been on it pretty much.
Okay.
Been on top of it. So, and then the basketball, I've been doing it sporadic, but I want to do it weekly now. So
Okay.
this way I can stay up to date with what's going on. Yeah, because just last week there was a big game between the Warriors and the Nets, and Warriors went to Brooklyn and waxed them. So I got to talk about that. So,
Yeah. Now you got a chance to make fun of me because I'm a Nets fan. So
oh, you're a Nets fan? Oh,
yeah.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So okay, so you have a football podcast and you have the basketball one, right? And they kind of
Yes.
overlap for a couple of weeks until the end of
Yeah.
the football season, the
Yeah.
playoff.
It will overlap until about, I think the football season is ending the first weekend in January. They extended it because of COVID. They want to give
Right.
enough space just in case there's forfeits or anything like that. So,
So the reason why I'm asking you that is because when the football season winds down and ends, that
yeah.
means that particular podcast goes on hiatus, and then
It
the
will go on
season.
hiatus. Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. I'll
And
probably
then,
do like a wrap up of like my awards, my quote unquote awards, or
okay.
who I'll do like a show like that, and then I'll just break, and then maybe I'll pop up here and there once free agency kicks off. I'll say a little something there, but and then the draft, but I'll pretty much be on hiatus.
So and
So
then kind of when the football season one ends, then you'll be getting into the height of the basketball one because their playoffs
right,
are coming soon. And then so
right.
that's because you're really not gonna have too much of a break up from the overlaps, right? Because once the
Not
basketball season starts to wind down, then that's when you get into the combine and then you get into the draft,
true, true.
preseason.
Yeah.
So how do you plan on manage like have you I mean, because you really when somebody first starts a podcast, it's rare that you have someone that says, I'm going to do two, right? So
Yeah,
I'm going to always keep pointing out that point. That's a big endeavor, right? Even if it's just a limited run podcast, like kind of like what the football season one would be, right? It'll be a certain amount
right.
of weeks of the year during the season, and then they go on break, and then you can concentrate fully on. So like, how is that? How do you manage that? Because there might be people out here who are trying to do what you're doing. What would you tell them is the best thing to manage that kind of responsibility?
My suggestion: don't do it. Don't do it. Just do one at a time. It's just me just having these lofty ideas, but it's gone good so far. I've gotten good feedback from it. So,
Okay.
but yeah, definitely do one, and then when you think about it, do another. Actually, I got ideas for other podcasts, but I'm just going to deal with this for now. So,
Right. So what made
yeah.
you get into podcasting? Like what was the driving force for you to say this is what I want to do and this is something I want to try doing?
It, I it wasn't really the pandemic per se. It was like post pandemic. I was like, this is something I could gravitate to, and like I said earlier, a lot of people would hit me up. Oh, who should I draft? Who should I, start or sit or anything like that? So I was like, I'm giving out this advice to my peoples. Maybe I could give it out to a broader audience.
Okay.
Um, so that was the idea behind the fancy football podcast. The basketball one just kind of happened organically, really. I just, again, my wealth of knowledge, I was like, maybe I could do that along with adding a little fantasy element to it. So, which I haven't done just yet, but I plan to do it uh, actually this next week when I do my episode. I'm just going to have different segments. One segment will cover like fantasy basketball. So,
Okay.
yeah, so
Now, early in the interview, you mentioned something that I thought was important when you mentioned the fantasy football one, and you said that there's not a lot of representation of our community in that space.
yes.
Can you talk more about that and what you plan? How do you plan on solving that problem with your podcast?
I mean, even so now, I'm on IG, and there's very few guys that look like me. There's one guy, and me and him have kind of a rapport. We'll go back and forth, but it's not a lot of people. Again, not a lot of black fantasy football analysts out there, except for the guys on on the NFL Network. They have a show, um, Fantasy Football Live, that they do, and Marcus Grant is a guy who's on there who is very insightful, and then Maurice Jones-Drew, I believe, is on there as well. He's a former player,
Yeah.
but not like guys who are just not former players, but guys with insight. I don't see a lot of that. So I said, something, that there's a space for, someone that looks like me doing this. So
How has the response been, from your part? Is some genres is kind of, the whole colorism thing and other societal
right.
issues that might leak into the response of our community's podcast, right? How
Hmm.
does that how does that work for, have you I guess what I want to ask you is
Yeah.
how has your podcast been received in the fantasy football space? I mean, outside of, just the marketing stuff and trying to acquire, the same problem a lot of podcasters have of just trying to get listenership and stuff like that. How has it been? Have you felt any pushback or anything because people know what your racial background is, or is it just something that, okay, this is a podcast I can listen to and that's.
No, I haven't got any pushback in that regard. No.
Okay.
But there are people who listen. Like I'll get like comments on SoundCloud because I'm on SoundCloud too. So, and then one person on YouTube actually said, this is great content. You should do like clips. So I was like, yeah, that's a good idea.
Right.
So, yeah. So the feedback's been good. It hasn't been of any racial regard. It's just
Okay.
general feedback. So
Good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Because like I said, some industries, some genres and stuff, because representation is so low, we're not used to being seen or represented there, and it's kind of like when you do enter that space, it's kind of I would say a taken back for some people.
right,
So I'm glad, and I've talked with other podcasters where they've actually had people trying to give them bad reviews and stuff like that to try to stop their podcast simply because of their racial background. So
wow,
yeah, so and that's something that I mean, it's the world we live in right now. But it's just like to ask you guys these type of questions because our
sure,
our representation, as you know, being a member of the group, we always talk about representation is important and stuff like that, and
yeah,
we want the world to know that Black podcasters are not just monolithic, and we have a variety of hobbies and interests as well. Even if it's in sports or entertainment, we can even have more segmented type of interests and niches that we can create. So, um,
yeah.
what like, what are your goals? Like, what do you like? Because you're doing this when you're getting towards the end of the year. Do you have any particular goals you want to set for yourself, which for your podcast for the new year?
For the new year, I would like to get guests on.
Okay.
So that would be my goal for the next season. This season was basically just to get the content out there. Once it's out there, then I could kind of say, I got a season under my belt. So, maybe get guests on. That's why, I have a presence on IG. I'm not really a Twitter person. Um, Facebook, I try to be active on there as well.
Okay.
So, but most of my really like back and forth is on IG really. So
All right. So you mentioned how getting your first season under the belt. What would you say what are some of the takeaways from I mean, I know you're probably still in the first season, especially in the basketball, and you're in the middle, probably in the middle of your season with the
more
football.
like the beginning.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
My mind is we're still in November. Um,
right.
and the season just really started. So
Yeah.
what are some takeaways so far since you've been on this journey that you started and this is your first season? This is typically where a lot of podcasters make their mistakes or they start to
Oh yeah.
find or they start to see, okay, this works, but this doesn't work. What are some takeaways that you have so far from your first season? I know you're in the middle of it, so whatever you can share it's fine.
My takeaway, it's a lot of work. And then now I'm starting to add show notes to my episodes, which requires me listening and grabbing like key points and putting it in the show notes. So I think that part, added part of it has been laborious, but it'll be rewarding in the long run because I know having show notes is great for your SEO. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Okay.
I say just the just having the time to do it. I have to manage my time because I have a full time job that I do. That's a 9 to 5. Then I have a side gig that I do in the evenings. So it's just a management of time. Really, is been
Right.
the you know I joke around and say I haven't had the rich donor yet that where I could walk away from both jobs and concentrate on this. So
Well, yeah, I mean, the goal is to figure out a plan where this can actually pay for itself and hopefully down the road, replace the income that you have. So, I
yeah.
mean, I think, so what does it, I asked this of all our guests, what does it mean for you to be a Black podcaster, especially in the sports space, in the sports genre? Does it have a significance to you? What does it mean to you?
It means a lot, um, particularly in the fantasy football, but also in the basketball too. I think you know ha- having someone like myself there with the knowledge that I have, I think it is worthwhile, even for the younger folks to kind of, again, I want to spotlight, the players from back in the day. So, so younger folks can kind of have an appreciation of that. So, but it definitely means a lot. It means a lot being in our group there. I get a lot of inspiration from the folks that are in there already. Folks like Leah, Bethany, Joseph, who you had on, Walter too, and your boy Darrell. So, Africa, of course, Mimi. So I get a lot of inspiration from the folks there, and I definitely appreciate them.
Okay. And I know what we didn't do is we didn't talk about your format. What format is your podcast? Is it audio, video, or both?
It's audio and video, but I've been having trouble with the video lately, so I'm gonna have to figure that part out. But video is basically like a static picture and me talking. It's not like me um, sitting
Okay.
behind a camera and talking. I think I'll graduate to that next season, perhaps. So,
Okay. You want to add more to your plate.
yeah, well, yeah, because I maybe I'm being ambitious again, but
No, I don't want to stop you. I don't want to stop you.
yeah,
It's, it's now when you have video and you're doing the editing. Now,
right,
besides the
right.
audio, you have the video component. But
That's
look, I
true.
mean,
Yeah.
it is a good medium, and recently the Black Podcasters Report, listener report came out from
Yes.
listener research, and they talked about that in there and how for a lot of our people in our community, especially if you're directing your podcast towards people in our community, the
Mhm.
video is a big component. So it might be something that you might want to look into for what you're trying
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah,
Um,
I took a quick glance at the report. I didn't read the whole thing, but I saw sports is like tied for fourth, I think. So
yeah, the topics,
that's
yeah,
a good thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, sorry, brain fart. So with that being said, like, what are some things that you're doing to try to what I want to ask, what I really want to ask you is what, since there are a lot of sports type of podcasts out there, what do you think is going to make yours different than everybody else's? What makes yours you more you what are you trying to do that's going to be either unique or different, or is it something that's on your plate that you want to do to just try to create your own perspective?
Yeah, I just want to give like unique perspectives because it seems like my opinions and thoughts are necessarily the same as what's out there. Um, except for the TNT guys, it seemed like my thoughts kind of align with theirs somewhat. Not with
Yeah.
Charles Barkley, but that's another story. I don't think anybody's thoughts align with his, but that's a story for another day.
All right. Is there anything before we wrap up? Is there anything you would like to, like, the people out here that are watching or that are going to watch this? Is there any like advice you want to give, or just like people know that it might be interested, especially in our community, interested in getting into podcasts?
I would say just throw your inhibitions to the side and just go for it. You know,
All right.
that's what I did. Sat on my podcast equipment for a good while before I just jumped headfirst in, and with preparation, of course. So, um, but yeah, just go ahead and go for it. Especially if you think you have an important voice out there that others need to hear.
Mhm.
Definitely go for it and do your thing.
All right. And then two more questions. The last
Yes.
question is going to be, what does it mean for you to be a member of the Black Podcasters Association?
Oh, it means a lot. It means a great deal. It means that, I'm in a community with others who I understand mine is more like the toy department of, the world. And there's folks with really serious podcasts out there. I understand that, but everybody's embraced as equals. So that's why I like about the space that we're in, the community that we're in, and we're rooting for one another. So definitely rooting for other people to get their shine and get get their voice out there.
Okay. Well, thank you. Um, So if I wanted to reach out to you to be a guest on your show, because I know you mentioned bringing that portion to your podcast, or I wanted to just follow you or learn more about you, what would be, how would fans or people who want to check out your podcast be able to reach out and link up with you?
Right. So I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, facebook.com, GD that sports dude. Also on IG, I'm there as GD that sports dude as well. And then I'm on TikTok, reluctantly, but my daughter talked me into that, at GD that sports dude. And also, I have a YouTube page, which is on my link tree, which is the linktree.com and GD that sports
Yeah,
dude.
there's a common theme here with all, with
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
pages,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then
which is
actually, I
good.
have yeah, and I have a Gmail account, which is that sports dude GD at
Okay.
gmail.com. So you can hit me up that way as well.
All right, if you don't mind me asking real quick, because I've heard some people starting to incorporate TikTok into their social media uh promotion, and I've heard some real positive things in regards to when they do video do stuff on TikTok, and and a correlation between the uptick in downloads or more exposure for their podcast. How has your experience with using TikTok for your podcast been so far?
It's been so far so good. I'm getting the eyeballs on there, but I really want to try and do like those videos that these guys do where it's them on there and then you see these little pictures pop up and
Oh,
whatnot.
mhm.
So I
All the
like to do
animations and
that.
stuff. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
I think I got to talk to my son-in-law about that. He's more tech savvy than I. So yeah, I definitely would like to do those type of videos. Right now, I'm doing like a static picture, and with the static picture, I'll like have some text written that it's week 7 roundup, or if it's in for the basketball podcast, it'll be like NBA top 75 lists out,
Okay.
and then some music that kind of correlates with the topic. So
Okay.
that's what I've been doing so far,
Yeah.
and it's been getting some looks. So I've been pleased about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep investigating that down the road. But we're gonna wrap up. I really
Yeah,
appreciate your time here. Appreciate you being on the spotlight. And I appreciate you being a member. I know since you come to our first meetup, you've been very consistent in all the different things that we do that we offer, whether it's a
right,
workshop, a meetup event, or whenever
right.
you can, you show up in the group and participate as well. So we really do appreciate that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so thank you for being on the show. I'm just gonna
Thank you,
close out.
Corey. Thank you for accepting me in and for all your advice and all that you do for the group, man. I think a lot of people don't realize the hard work you put in. Definitely appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. But this is about you guys right now. We're gonna
No, 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 no. I'm just giving you your flowers.
thank you. I appreciate it. So so if anybody's if you're interested in being on the spotlight, this is open up to all our members in the Black Podcasters Association. We can be found on Facebook. That's our official group. It's the Black Podcasters Association. You can also find us on YouTube. As you see at the bottom of the screen, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the Black Podcasters Association or Black Podcasters Association, depending on what platform you're on. But if you're interested in learning more about our organization, you can go to blackpodcastersassociation.com. You can sign up for our newsletter that we send out just about every month, sometimes a little bit more, depending on what's going on and what events we have going on. But again, thank you, Gerald. We really appreciate having you, and we look forward to building more in the group and seeing your podcast grow.
Yes, yes, definitely appreciate that. Again, appreciate you.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me on.
All right. Thank you.